Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello everyone and welcome to Junia Doan's The Spark. I'm Junia Doan. Today I would like you to meet Sharon Mortensen. Sharon has worked in the nonprofit world for 25 years and has served as president and CEO of the Midland Area Community Foundation since June of 2012. Well, Sharon, I want to hear about this wonderful new project called Catalyst Midland.
Yes, we are very excited about this. One of the things that we want to do is to better tell the story of entrepreneurs, of people coming up with new ideas, of what young talent is doing in our community. And one of the things that really caught our eye with this whole working with Issue Media Group to develop Catalyst Midland is that we know that highly mobile 25 to 34-year-olds decide first where they want to live and then find a job. And that the Knight Foundation has said one of the greatest ways to encourage economic development is for people to have an affinity for the community where they live. So we want to get young talent to Midland, staying in Midland, coming back to Midland if they've left the community. And how do we tell those stories? Well, we were looking at what we could do to tell those stories, and we looked to this group called Issue Media Group with this publication called Catalyst Midland. So we met with some partners in the community to say we want to encourage economic development, we want to attract and retain young talent in our community, and how can we do that? So, and I know it's one piece of how we can do that, but we want to tell these stories in an in-depth manner. So what we're looking at is we're going to have a local editor. We have 6 partners that have come together to help fund that from across our community. So it's certainly Midland Area Community Foundation, but Michigan Baseball Foundation, the Dow Chemical Company, Midland Business Alliance, the Chamber and the Economic Development Organization. It's also Chemical Bank and Midland Center for the Arts. So we came together and said, how can we tell these stories? There are so many exciting things happening in our community. We want to tell these stories. And when you think about traditional media, it's very loss-oriented. So what gets clicks, I mean,
funny,
it is.
True.
It really
Yeah.
is. I mean, what gets clicks, it's usually accidents,
Disaster.
right, sad things that happen in our community.
Yes.
Well, and sports does too.
Atypical.
Right, but more, and so how can we drive, and really we've seen that media, there have been cuts and cuts and more cuts in terms of their ability, traditional media, to tell these stories with in-depth reporting, really getting some great photographs to tell stories. It's harder to do that. So we're looking at this as an economic development tool for our community and a way to tell stories. And then how do we find the right stories to tell? And that's where we are bringing young people together to help direct us. Because while we have an advisory board, and certainly the funders are welcome to be a part of that, but we need the young people, those folks that are making the news and starting businesses and engaging in work with nonprofits, maybe helping to start a community garden, finding exciting projects to do in the community. We have to have them engaged. So we brought them together, at least a small group to start with, to the Larkin Beer Garden down on a Thursday night. And they were suggesting ideas, and there was no shortage of ideas that they were excited about in our community.
What kinds of things were they?
Oh, they were things from some of the work that Little Forks is doing an accessible area for folks to enjoy the natural environment. It was, well, Larkin Beer Garden itself is really an exciting thing.
Right.
There were some new businesses that have started up. There's some new programming that's going on certain places that young people are participating and planning. There were, and now I'm missing some of those stories, but there were so many ideas that they just kept going with ideas. Have you heard about this? Do you know about this? And they're excited. There's work around mentoring young people, some new programs that have happened with some of our nonprofits. So just a variety of things, ideas that people want to start, businesses they want to start, ways they want to partner and work together. So we want to bring them together and have them inform the work of what are the stories we should tell. And part of the beauty of this is totally an online publication.
Yeah.
So, but
cost-wise.
Yeah, which is great, but their motto is create once, publish everywhere. So you create this material, but you look to get it published not just on our online newspaper, but to be picked up by others. And in work that the Issues Media Group has done in other communities, they've had it picked up by national publications at times, statewide publications, local media in their community. I hope that this will be a source for local media in our region to pick up stories and to utilize those stories to tell as well. So we want to get the stories out in a variety of formats. But so really it's, create once, publish everywhere is what we're working to do through Catalyst Midland.
Did they, whoever they are, say what it is that's in a community or the aura of the community that will attract people to, young people to choose to live there?
Mm-hmm. Well, they have a variety of things that they look at. It's arts and culture, it's entertainment, it's recreation, it's transportation, it's bike paths through town. It's really a vibrant kind of exciting activities for young people to engage in, as well as part of that it's architectural and architecture and design. So they have a series of circles, and in the middle they put talent and economic development, and then they have all these things that they believe really help to feed that and that are important to, so they have, and they look to make sure that their stories, and they'll also, as a story is published, they'll decide what general category does it go under. So if someone is looking for stories on recreation, they could type that in as well and find these stories, or arts and culture, so they tag the story by the category it fits under, economic development, and then publish that. So they're looking for all of those pieces they believe are important to a community. So really when you think about what makes a vibrant community, it's such a cross-section of things. And that's what they're trying to touch on and tell stories from all of those different categories.
You know what I think's missing from that? What do I want to say? The way people treat each other. Like some areas are more collegial or a little softer. Some are a little bit more abrupt or direct or indifferent. I never read about those aspects when I read about a community description, let's say the lakes or the this, that, or the other. And I'm looking for, how do people treat each other?
What kind of culture do we develop in our community around that?
So particularly for Midland, I think that would be a nice thing to add to, perhaps a seasoning, perhaps as just a tagline or whatever. It's that I think our culture, particularly in Midland, is optimistic. We're having a little moment. Optimistic, cooperative, low-key, with the feeling that things can get done, that any good idea can get done, and that people spontaneously volunteer out of their hearts a lot. Which I think is really a good idea. So the idea is really just attracting young people. When I was young, I thought that's where you decided where you wanted to live, and then you moved there, and then, okay, get it together. But I thought with economic times, supposedly the way they are, that's less true or not true at all. What is your thoughts, or what do they say about that?
Well, they do say that really 2/3 of young people decide where they want to live first, and then find the job. Now, and again, I'm sure you can find exceptions, but still that is driving people look at where's a vibrant community. And we've seen some examples of that. Actually, a couple folks that are on our advisory group were from Midland, went away to college, worked away for a while, and then said, there's something about that community. I want to go back there. So we want to tell those stories where more of our talent that maybe has left, because when you look at Michigan as a whole, we educate our young people, but then they tend to go other places. And how do we keep them here, and how do we get them to want to come back to to, and obviously, you know, we're looking at Midland County here, but how do we get them to want to come back to Midland County, to the Great Lakes Bay region, to come back to where their home was initially as they were growing up, and what's going to pull them back? And I think certainly some wonderful things that they realized as they grew up, but I think as we tell stories about what else is happening, we have this new wonderful STEM elementary school, Central Park Elementary. That's very exciting for people to see what's happening there. So looking at that, some of the work going on around the streetscape, the fact that we want to have festival-friendly streets, we want to bring people downtown. We're looking at ways, even within the streetscape, that we can add some amenities to draw people. I think those are all stories that as people hear them, they're going to go, that's exciting. Midland's doing something. They're looking at ways to change things. And you look at some of our new little coffee shops that have sprung up in town. I mean, that's great. Again, places where people gather and can sit and exchange ideas and have conversation. And you're right, though, what kind of culture do we want in our community? And I think you characterize Midland very well as we're optimistic. You know, we're looking for, if there's a great idea, we'll find a way to do it in Midland. And I think that whole element of respect and appreciating diversity among, you know, one another, I think that's so critical. And I think those are all things that we want to have true of our community.
And it separates the community from other places in the state and country. I don't think they're as prevalent. Other things are emphasized, let's just say.
Right.
So how is the foundation getting involved in it?
Well, we heard about this actually about a year ago. I was at a Council of Michigan Foundation conference, and a number of community foundations were there. And one of the community foundations talked about some of the work that they had done and how they were working with the same organization to bring something like this to their community. And I was intrigued at the time, and I thought, that could be something interesting to do here. And then earlier this year, we brought in the gentleman that started Issue Media Group to talk. Initially, it was with some of us across the region to look at, should we do this regionally? Should we do it in our communities? As we were deciding what direction to go. And then it ended up that we pursued it in Midland, and I think others are looking at different things they're focusing on in their communities right now. So then we brought together some partners and said, let's hear what they have to say and see what you think. So the Chamber was one of the first that came. They came actually when we initially looked at the region. So Midland Business Alliance, which is our Chamber and Economic Development organization in Midland. So they came and were interested. And then we went from there and talked to others and brought them together. And although we started with just 6 partners, I think we may have more as time goes on. Those were just folks that said, yes, let's go ahead, let's move on this. And so we contracted with the organization in August, and we're to launch in October. So they're in the process of, you know, getting the name, getting all the domains, hiring a part-time editor, finding writers and photographers that can help to do some of the work. So all of that's going on right now, getting this advisory group together to help advise what are some of the stories they should be looking at. And they have an editor over all of their publications statewide that helps to make sure we get the right editor, they look over their work. But it was really from someone I heard speak, and then we started having conversations and said, what else do we need to do for Midland? Because I think that's really what we have to always be looking at for each of us in our communities. What do we do to keep moving our community forward? And we can't be content with status quo. You know, one of my things about life I say is always thankful, never satisfied. So, I mean, yeah, but I'm thankful for what we have.
Always
but how
thankful,
can
never
we?
satisfied.
How can we move ahead? So I think we always have to be having those conversations, and depending on what our role is in the community, we're having them in different ways with different people and different topics. But this just seemed a great opportunity given what we're trying to do right now. I think in Midland we're trying to attract young people, keep young people in our community, bring young people back to our community that are from our community. And that's an important focus for us right now, where Midland is a place people want to be, that they want to come here, they want to work here, they want to, you know, really make their livelihood, maybe have their family here. So we want this to be a desirable place. And what can we do to drive economic development? And I know economic development, there are a lot of components to that. And so this is one piece of it. You know, it's one piece that I think can help but really to tell stories, because there are so many innovative, exciting things happening in our community. And
It's partly the people.
yeah, we have great people.
So
We have
I'm really
great
big
community.
on what I call laughter leads, that if you should, when you're with people, you should inject something positive, like way of energy or wit or information or affability or almost anything like that. And I don't know how you thread that in, but I think it should be fun.
I agree, and I think, and honestly, the first time we brought some of the folks together to begin to work on an advisory group, it was fun. We had a great time down at Larkin Beer Garden. They had fun telling their ideas. The gal that was there from Issue Media Group, that'll be the editor that oversees editors throughout the state. She had her drone along. She had gotten a drone license and flew it up to get some pictures over Larkin Beer Garden. And it was just fun. It was a fun night, and I thought, really, you're right. We have to make it fun because people enjoy. And really, two ways that you engage people are fun and philanthropy. People love to give back. They love to serve. They love to find and of course, I know we're all about philanthropy, but this is true. I mean, in the whole field of positive psychology, philanthropy is a great thing if you give in some way, whether your talent, your time, it could be financial resources, that infuses really great joy in your life. So we got to find ways to make it fun and to get people to engage in things that are fun and giving.
That's my answer to big government. I think it's much more interesting if individual towns and individual counties and cities solve their own problems and have multiple ways of doing it. You know, it's just like the talents of the local people are somewhat different from one place to another, or how they express it all. So I'm really very a supporter of laughter, the quality, and also I think Midland has a reputation that it's hard to get in, and I think this effort may be a way that softens that a little bit, that people can find a way. And I was a guest at a brunch over this weekend, not exactly a young professional, but a medium young professional, and she was saying she moved here and it was just hard. She had the job, but it was just hard, and I've heard that before. So that might be something for this group to consider, or subduing a little bit if they were interested, if they agreed. Maybe they don't agree.
Right. No, but I think that's true. I've heard that also, that how can we become a welcoming community where if someone comes here and doesn't already have connections, how do we make sure they have plenty of opportunities to connect with others? Because ultimately we all want a sense of community.
Don't we have Welcome Wagon?
Not anymore, actually. That's not in that format anymore. So
perfect volunteer project for this group.
There you go. Absolutely right. So how do we make sure that people do connect? And I think telling some of these stories could help people say, I'm interested in that, and they could connect in some way if it's something going on in the community where they could join in and be a part of it. But that is a very good point. We need to make sure people feel welcome, and that we welcome all, that we find ways for all to engage in our community.
Sometimes you have to take the initiative in any part of your life, right? You can't get dressed unless you start.
Right.
So, but well, that's really interesting. Are you undertaking anything else in connection with this?
Well, I'm excited about this, and we'll see where it goes. I think certainly the Chamber's Young Professionals, they're encouraging them, if they're interested in the editor or this advisory board, to join into that. But we're working on this to see where it goes. So I don't know that we have something
fluid.
Yeah, closely connected,
fluid.
but
possibilities.
Right. So we'll see what comes from that. Could there be other ideas that come from this, or from some of the reporting where we go, goodness, we could fill a void here, or maybe there's another group that could fill a void that we become aware of, or build on something that's happening now. So who knows, maybe there'll be ideas out of it where certainly we already do some facade improvement programs around town, but could there be, for new businesses, could there be opportunities to support them in some way? Or I don't know, let's see what develops.
Parenthetically, talked a little bit about drones. You have to get a license, and who gives the license? Where, if someone wants to do a drone, what are the steps they need to undertake besides get the thing?
I really am not totally sure. I know that there is some procedure, and so I can't claim to have a lot of background on that. I do know that the gal that used it that night did have her license, but I'm not an expert in that. That'd be a good topic for another one of your shows, right?
Yeah,
to find out more about that.
Oh, drones and all.
Right.
We're thinking for Matrix, for the festival of doing something on autonomous driving, some of these vehicles and so forth and so on. But I mean, you can drive in the air, you can drive on the ground. I mean, there's a lot to kind of, and then I always think privacy, people shooting over their drones over my house.
Right.
I don't want to, be thinking, oh my gosh, dare I go out my bathroom?
I'm sure there's some regulations around that. But,
do you think so?
But yes, as I say, I'm not an expert on that.
Well, you have a wonderful family. Why don't you share a little bit about your children, which
well,
I'm very proud.
Oh, that's very kind of you to ask. Yes, we actually have 4 adult children, and who are all in various stages of life, which it's exciting, and actually all spent their growing up years in Midland, so that was their home. We haven't gotten any back yet, though, so we'll see if through the storytelling maybe I can entice some back. But our oldest son's a professor at University of Georgia in Athens, Georgia, and he and his wife live there, and they have 2 wonderful little girls. So we have 2 granddaughters down there that are 3 and not a year yet, so a little under a year. And then our second son was, he graduated from the Air Force Academy and served as a pilot in the Air Force for a period of time, and now he works for a company in Cincinnati, and we have 3 little granddaughters there. So it's been a productive last couple years for the Mortensen family. And then we have 2 daughters, and one is in Connecticut now. She's a speech language pathologist, and she and her husband are also very involved in a Christian ministry there, and are lay ministers and work part-time in a ministry position. And then our youngest is a first grade teacher down at Grosse Ile and lives in Midtown Detroit. So she's watched the transformation of that. And she's married now. She's the one I'd like to entice back here, but we'll see.
We'll see. So what did you try to imbue them with? What did you try to teach them as a parent? Because they're quite different in their interests, but all are goal-directed, it seems like.
Right. Well, certainly one of the things that I think is so critical is just respect for others, respect for yourself and respect for others, I think is just critical. And appreciating differences of other people, and being willing to listen and understand others' perspectives that may be different from your own. So I think that's just important for all of us in our lives, to be able to hear, to listen, to consider others and their positions, and also to really kind of have a sense of who you are and what your values are, and to really identify your priorities and where your values lie, and then to make sure that you're true to those as best you can be.
For those who would like to find out what their priorities are and who they are, what was the steps you took to do that?
Well, I'd say certainly there's a lot as your kids are growing up of just exploration of different things, seeing what you enjoy, and that continues past their years at home in school to their college years. But I think to expose, to read, to introduce them to different people different from you. I think that's all important. And for us, for me and my husband, certainly for us, our faith is very, very important to us. And so that was something that our kids were exposed to. But everyone has to decide, is that a priority for them or not in their lives?
Talk a little bit about your faith and how you exposed your children to it.
Well, we're involved in a Christian ministry that's home-based. So really, that was pretty much a part of their life, since we had small groups, in our home meeting. But it was a part of, just for us, prayer was important, reading, talking through how this related, even talking through some of the things that we believed were biblical values and what they were facing and how does it fit. And there are some tough questions in there. There's some tough questions and tough things to look at in life and to figure out. So it was just a part of who we were, and we talked about how we struggled with things and how we came to some of our decisions and what formed the basis of those.
Talk just a little bit about home-based ministry? Do you meet to discuss what happens?
Sure. Well, we're part of a non-denominational Christian ministry, so there is like support for that. But as a home-based ministry, we have various teaching topics. We meet for usually twice a week in homes, and really it's short inspirational teachings from the Bible with practical ramifications to use in your life. And you get to know people, as you know, any small group that you're a part of, there are relationships that you establish, and so those relationships are important to the relationship that you hope people are building in terms of their faith, with God, their relationship there. So.
Thank you. It's exactly what we were talking about, community, right? So we've learned a lot, at least I have, and I love the phrase, grateful but not satisfied. That's not what you said. What did you say?
Always thankful, never satisfied.
Always thankful, never satisfied. So, dream big, be practical, be grateful for what you have. I also like the idea of teaching children and everybody else practicing respect, interest, listening, toleration for various opinions, and also I think willing to talk big issues out. That seems to be something we glide over somewhat these days, and I wouldn't want to encourage that. I think the ability to really hear and try to understand why a person thinks a different way or whatever way they think, it's very educational, and I think that's what life is, learning more, and being grateful. So be grateful, be kind, do something wonderful for someone you love and someone you don't know, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in.
To contact Junia, send her an email at juniadonsthespark@gmail.com. For more information, program schedules, and news about future guests, go to www.juniadonthespark.com. Thank you for joining us. See you next time on Junia Doan's The Spark.
Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.